Hey there, it's Shauna. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for April 30th. So this week is all about emotional connection. And that's because this week we're going to really dig into the lunar cycle of this week, and how to work with that energy. I'm excited to share this with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So let's get started. So this week I'm super excited because there's actually no major planetary aspects that are happening this week. So I thought it would be really fun together to jump into what's the energy of the lunar cycle for this particular week, and we can track it and get a better sense of how to work with the lunar cycles over time in general, but especially this week. When I say the lunar cycle, that's basically the point from a new moon until the next new moon. So our months are really based on the lunar cycle. Within a 30-day period, we'll always have a new moon and a full moon. And this is just the way that everything in the solar system works, so that we have a new moon, and then we have a full moon in the middle of the cycle, and then we have another new moon to mark the ending of this cycle and then the beginning of a new cycle. So where are we now in the lunar cycle? This week we're in what's called the waning gibbous phase, and that's just a fancy way of saying it's the time in between the full moon and the next new moon. And it's called waning because it's waning away. You can think waning away kind of like wasting away, like there's a sense of things falling away because the light of the moon is starting to disappear a little tiny bit every single day. The moon is starting to appear smaller and smaller in the sky. So symbolically this week with the waning gibbous phase, it's a time of sharing and release. It's a time of being generous. And kind of like, I think of this week also, because we had the full moon this past weekend, we had the full moon in Scorpio. The time after the full moon this week is kind of like gathering yourself together and like discerning what it is that happened the last week, what it is that you need to do about it, what is it that you need to let go of, or kind of like collecting yourself. I feel that kind of energy, like getting your bearings is one term that came to me when I was thinking about this. And so it's definitely like this energy of being generous with others and sharing your time, and it's also at the same, in the same note, it's this time of using discernment, like, okay, where is it beneficial to cut something loose and to not worry about it anymore? When is it beneficial to really double down your efforts on something? It's kind of like this discernment energy. And then the other layer of this week, the other layer that we can look at, so that's kind of like the emotional tone of the week, and you can always look at the lunar cycle, but that's, you can track it week by week, but that's this week's. And then you can also look at the sign that the moon is in. So the moon is in one sign for about 1 to 2 days, sometimes 3 days at a time, and it just moves through the whole entire zodiac sign in order of the zodiac signs. So this week, we start out with the moon in Scorpio on Monday. So Scorpio is a bit intense and brooding. It's very good for any work that's like investigating things or like really digging into something for research. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the middle of the week, the moon will be in the sign of Sagittarius. And so Sagittarius is about learning and exploration, and it's got a more effervescent and uplifting kind of vibe versus Scorpio. So if you have some like investigatory things to do or some research to do, I would definitely do that on Monday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is gonna feel a lot lighter, and it's a good time for like connecting with people, anything social. If there's something that you want to learn about, those are good days for that. It's more, again, look like an expansive kind of energy. And then Friday and Saturday, we have the moon in the sign of Capricorn. And so Capricorn is all about business. It's a more serious tone, and it's more effort focused. Capricorn is about putting in the time, putting in the diligence. And so Friday and Saturday may have a more serious tone. If you have like some projects that require application of yourself, especially like a diligence. Friday and Saturday may be a good time for that. And then Sunday we finish off the week with the moon in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius is about innovation, and it's about changing things up. So I share all of this with you not to say that something is going to like happen because the moon is in a certain sign, but you can think of it as like the emotional tone for the day. And you can think of it as like the emotional weather. Like some days are a little bit more sunny, some days maybe it rains or it's a little more cloudy. And I don't know about you, but when the weather changes, it influences my mood, it influences my activities. It doesn't force me to do anything. Like if I have something planned, I'm gonna do that thing. But I like to know what's happening so that I can go with the flow, so that I can plan my day and plan my time. And if I feel a certain way, I know how to work with that energy. So I hope that makes sense. Tracking the lunar cycles is something that I'm very passionate about. So I was excited to have a little bit more time this week, since there's no other planetary aspects that are happening. We can track these things this week. So that being said, I have 3 tips for you. So tip number 1 is to track your emotional cycle this week. And so you have a very like laid out plan. You have, you know, what sign the moon is going to be in every single day this week. And I may type up like a little cheat sheet or something in the comment section of this video. I'm not sure yet. Tell me if you want that. But so I want you to just like notice, and you can do this very elaborately or very simply, just by tracking how you feel each day, and then notice like how do you feel each day compared to what sign the moon is in at that day. And it may jive, it may not jive, I don't know. A lot of that depends on your personal astrological makeup and what's going on in your life, but I always find it really interesting to do any kind of reflective work like that. So I find when I reflect day to day, things often become more clear, and especially in retrospect, it helps me process things. So that's tip number 1, is to track your emotional cycle this week. Tip number 2 is to be generous. So this is really about working with the waning gibbous phase of the moon to share your time with others, share your information, share your knowledge. If you feel like you're already maxed out on time and energy, then maybe there are other ways that you can share yourself. Maybe that is even just the presence of listening to someone that's right in front of you at the moment. And then tip number 3 is find out your own personal moon sign. What is your moon sign in your birth chart? And you can look that up on astrocafe.com has like a free birth chart. You can Google, there's so many different options. Just Google like how to find out your moon sign and you can find it. But that's kind of, that's a tip and kind of like a homework thing that I would give to you, because it can be really interesting to find out what your moon sign is, and it may make a lot of sense, especially if you were born at night. Typically people that were born at night versus during the day, they resonate more with their moon sign versus their sun sign. So just something interesting, and I don't know, maybe you don't resonate with it at all, but that is the last tip. Find out your personal moon sign, since we're working with the moon this week. And then I'm gonna pull a little card for us to symbolize the energy of this week. And so this is from the Wild Unknowns Animal Spirit deck that I like to use. And so there's all different kinds of animals in here, and some are fun and some are kind of scary sometimes. Are they like the tarot deck? There's cards that are like happy and beaming, and then other cards that are a little more like mysterious. I think that's the word I would use, is mysterious. So so we're gonna pull a card to symbolize the energy of the week, and it just gives like an extra layer of information. Okay. Oh, this is such a sweet card. So I pulled the starfish, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I think of, but I want you to, as always, first just notice what you think of. I think what's really interesting with the starfish is that it's so simple here on the card. Like, there's just the lines, there's nothing else happening. It's just this really beautiful orange and yellow. The orange and yellow makes me think of the solar plexus and the sacral chakra, those energy centers in the body. But the starfish is very much about having an optimistic viewpoint on things, and it's like support and luck from the universe, from the creator, from God, or whatever deities that it is that you use. It also makes me think of what's that story or that saying where there was a man who was walking down the ocean and he saw another man. There were all these starfish that had washed up on the shore, and he saw a man picking up one starfish at a time and chucking it back in the ocean because they were going to die and like dry out and die if they were on the shore. And so he saw this man just throwing one at a time, and he asked the man, "Why are you doing that? Like, there's no way you're going to be able to save all of these starfish, and it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter." And the man said, well, he picked up one starfish and he said, "Well, it matters to this one." And then he threw it back. And I thought that was really sweet because that actually reminds me of how the gibbous phase is about being generous, and how it doesn't have to be like a big, elaborate, like important action of generosity. Sometimes it can be something very small and minor that can make a big difference in someone's life. So that's what that made me think of. I'm curious what you think of. You can leave me a comment and let me know. So that's your horoscope for the week. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please share it with a friend who you think would enjoy it, to share the love. And if you want to connect with me more, you want more fun things like this, you can watch me on Neo Feminine TV. So that's a weekly live broadcast that I broadcast live on YouTube, and then there is the recordings available on YouTube and also on iTunes. And so that is inspiration and guidance for sensitive souls. Last week we talked about manifesting, how manifesting is kind of fucked up and causes more harm than help. And this week I'm excited because we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of sun sign horoscopes. And I have some tips for you on how to get the most out of reading your sun sign horoscope. I know some of you do that, and it's something that I feel very passionate about, how there can be, if you know how to read your sun sign horoscope, you can get more out of it. And so while those are not really my jam, I don't write those because of some reasons that I'll share with you, I wanted to give you some tips on how to really read those so that they're more helpful and not as like just general and stock, so that they're more personal to you. Also, if you want to connect with me more, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Neo Feminine Astrology. And then if you're interested in working with me, I do coaching and counseling with astrology. You can find more information on my website. I'll have a link below for that too. So until next time, wishing you a wonderful week, sending lots of love, and I'll talk to you soon. Namaste.